Everybody knew I was going to interview you, and they all asked me the one question I must ask, so I'll do it. What is going on at the Pirate Party? Today, I have the pleasure to welcome in the studio Sven Clement, who was co-founder of the party, the Pirates, in 2009. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Just to give a bit of context, so you were born in 1989 and you co-founded the party in 2009. You were the president of this party until 2019, following your election at the chamber in 2018. You are also the CEO of a company called Account Tech, where you have several employees. And basically, if people look at piraten.lu, which is your official website, they will see that it's a bit of a catch-all program. You talk about a fair tax reform, about security, of course, childcare, health system, environment, things that everybody will agree about. For me, the reason I invited you is you advocate for open and digital economy. And for those who remember, in 2009, when you created the party, you were 20 years old only. We were in the middle of stories of the Pirate Bay, of WikiLeaks. So there was some kind of almost revolution brewing. And here we can see 15 or 16 years later, where are we? To conclude about the intro, so people can see what we are talking about, at the last general election, the party who got the most votes was CSV with 29%. The second most votes were LSAP with 18.9%, a bit more than the DP. People will be surprised because, as you know, DP is in the coalition, maybe because they got 14 seats at the chamber, when LSAP with more votes got only 11 seats. This is the complexity of politics in Luxembourg. And behind those three big ones, you've got 3 or 4 smaller parties, so ADR, at 9.27%. The Greens at 8.5%, who lost 5 seats in 2023. That was a big jump, basically the only party who lost seats. And then comes the Pirate parties at 6.7%. So 3 parties really close to each other. And that was a year and a half ago. You got 3 seats at the chamber. We'll talk about it because this has evolved over the past year. So I'll jump right into it. Everybody knew I was going to interview you, and they all asked me the one question I must ask, so I'll do it. What is going on at the Pirate Party?
Oh, if I knew, I would tell you. Honestly,
I'm sure you know.
I was a bit surprised about the dimensions that everything took on over the last, let's say, 6 months. It was clear we had some issues to resolve in the party. Nonetheless, we campaigned ferociously in 2018 and 19. And then we also got, in the last elections, we even got better in the number of seats, but also in percentage-wise. Mm-hmm. So for us, it was really clear that we needed to stabilize the party. At least that was my impression. And then we had some internal struggles, which led to some public struggles, some public debates, and which led also to accusations that I don't want to repeat, because I believe that we need to focus on addressing the future and not the past. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, all those issues led to some very sad decisions of individuals, and so that now we are only sitting with 2 pirates in parliament, not with 3, because one of them has left us for the LSAP, Ben Polidori, which he had his personal reasons for doing it. I look forward to the future where all those issues can be resolved, where transparency can be established, and where we will know what exactly happened in the past.
Yeah, so let me go back for people who are not maybe looking at RTL every day. I think you really reached the peak of your party, I would say, just after the communal election in 2023. You went from 3 elected people to 20, so it was a massive progress. And I remember very well at that time, the polls were giving you with a projection of 6 members of parliament, possibly 3 months later. Fast forward 12 months, so we go back now to May or August 2024, your 3 members of parliament are now 2. And from your 20 communal people, it's difficult to get a count. I'm telling you, I had to dig a lot. My count is 11. So you seem to have lost 9 people from the communal election. Some of them switched to LSAP, others to the Greens, and some of them become independent. So that looks like a disastrous scenario. So let's just talk about the things. There was a first issue about this app that the Pirate as a party developed. Does that make any sense?
So just rewind
Sure.
a few seconds back to establish the timeline, and I think it's very important also to make sense of my answers.
Yes.
The main point is that and you mentioned it earlier, in 2019, I left the position as president of the party because I always believed that parties need more people. People, there need to be more people in the spotlight. There need to be more people that the population at large knows. So the goal was really to establish a broader leadership of the party.
Better governance.
Better governance, and making sure that we represent more people at the same time. And I think we tried that, and I'm very sad to see that we didn't achieve the goals that we had when we decided to broaden the leadership.
Well, until
the election result
was okay, because you did really well at the communal election in 2023.
But the question is, at what cost?
Yes.
And when you ask me how does it come that people left the party, maybe they left because they never really adhered to the party. They joined us for municipal elections because they saw an opportunity, took that opportunity, won a seat based on the opportunity the party afforded, but then realized or always knew that they weren't really a fit for the Pirate Party. And our drive to broaden our leadership, the drive to broaden the membership base, lost sight of what it means to concentrate on what makes a party. So that might have been one of the issues.
Yes.
Why that human fluctuation in the party.
So a lack of alignment on the real values, and maybe too much of a catch-all, come on, join us, join us, join us, and then whenever a first friction came, you lost a lot of people. So
because if you join a party just for the opportunity to get elected, the first moment you see headwinds, you leave because you never signed up for headwinds.
Yeah, it's one of the things in Luxembourgish election that the path from being a mayor or a member of any municipality to becoming a minister is very short. If you just look at the ministers, a lot of them were mayors and they become ministers. And surely it's not like in a village in France where you'll basically work very hard for your village. Here, it could be a path to the chamber or even to a ministry. We'll go back in other interviews about the regions, about the electoral system in Luxembourg, which is very surprising for when people discover it for the first time. So let's go back to this idea. So if I wrap it up, there was this project of an app. I think it was for asylum people, and there was I guess a market proposition. You bid it as a party, and then of course it backfired.
Yeah, so it backfired immensely last year, essentially.
So you won it. When did you get this?
The project dates back to the mid 2010s. So we talk about 2014, 2015.
Okay, so it was very long.
And what did happen was, essentially, it was during the refugee crisis. You might remember the images of children drowning in the Mediterranean. On the islands of Greece, you saw cadavers arriving, floating bodies. It was a very emotional
and the walk
situation.
of death through Kosovo and all those things.
So that was the situation we found ourselves in. It was shortly after the very successful elections in so we had our first successful elections, I would say, in 2013 and 2014, where we got over 3% of the vote. And so we were eligible for public financing, and we wanted to mobilize that public financing to do something good. Mm-hmm. And so we decided, what could we do in such a situation? We wanted to help. We wanted to help those refugees arriving in Luxembourg to feel welcome and to integrate better. And the then government always said they should learn French because they need to go to the job market, which they never did because they are forbidden from working when they arrive. So it was a very strange argument, but they got told, today, please learn French. And we as a party believed and still believe that Luxembourgish is the language of integration in Luxembourg.
Okay.
So we are very much in favor of plurilingual situations. We believe that everybody should speak more English. We believe that we should focus more on English in the business community. We need to also speak French, German, Luxembourgish, but Luxembourgish is the language of integration.
Of course.
So we decided that we wanted to help refugees learning Luxembourgish. And to do that, then OLAI, today ONA, put up a request for proposals and said, who wants to help refugees? And we submitted a proposal to let the private market develop an app, and we would hire the support staff around that. So it was always transparent.
To bid?
It was a bid of only about 30,000 euros for the whole project. So it was, we asked, I think, 4 or 5 companies to submit proposals.
So sorry to dig. So you've got the association in charge who is doing an RFP to appoint a company, I would imagine. How does a party bid at that time?
So the OLAI makes an RFP for proposals towards public entities. So you had to be a public entity or ASBL.
Why is that? Why not a private company?
Those were the rules.
Okay.
I didn't make the rules. I just followed the rules at that point. And
so who were your competitors in that bid?
I think everybody who submitted proposals.
But it was only public entities?
Only public entities.
But only one party?
There was only one party, and if you would ask me today, and they changed the rules afterwards, I don't believe parties should do it, but I believe that at that point,
it was not forbidden.
Yes. It was even allowed. So
exactly.
It's a difference between not forbidden and...
Okay, so you get the bid, you win the budget, then I would imagine you hire people.
So what we did was we hired 2 support staff, 2 refugees that got a job through that project to help other refugees use the app, to learn Luxembourgish, to support them. So we actually created jobs in the refugee community. That's what I'm really proud about in that project. And I'm not proud about the rest.
Well, you were clearly saying you realized what went wrong. Who did the coding? There was an app.
So we asked for proposals, for quotes from companies that were active in app development. We only got no's. Nobody wanted to do it for that amount of money. Okay. So one of the companies I was involved with and still am, then submitted a bid at 50 euros an hour developer cost, which for people that are on LinkedIn, they know that probably very few companies offer rates at that rate. We didn't earn money, we didn't lose money on it either, to be honest.
So we got the genesis of the problem. Then it blows, of course, last year. Suddenly people start leaving the party. Then you've got the second member of the chamber. There's another scandal coming out. We hear he got basically a loan from the party to pay his tax. And of course, from an external point of view, if you want to be the pirates, the kings of transparency, that look quite dirty. So how do you reflect on those 2 scandals arriving at that time, and how do you see this going forward?
I think that I would wish for more transparency to be possible, but obviously during criminal investigations, it's you are limited to what you are allowed to say and what you can say. So I'm really looking forward to a future where the criminal justice system does us justice and shows what went wrong and what didn't go wrong.
What's the horizon for this?
I have no clue. That's the Justice Department who is responsible for that. And you know, we can have a long political debate about whether they have enough people, whether they are well equipped. I think that's one of the major issues. They don't have enough space. They don't have enough people.
Yes.
So we actually, I have no clue how long it will take. It all depends on.
It could be years.
It could be weeks, months, years. I really don't know. We cooperate fully. Whatever they ask me, I will help them to get the data, the documents. And I think that's the most important thing at this point. I'm really looking forward to the transparency.
Okay,
and
so if you ask
me about transparency, if if you look at my whole career in politics, it was always about creating more transparency. Whether it was suing the government to get access to the contract, linking the government to RTL, which changed the constitution in fine.
That was a big one. Yes. I encourage you to research it on Google. So basically there was a contract with RTL and it was under the Bettel government and members of the parliament could not read the contract.
Yeah.
So
they actually told us you will not get access to the contract.
And you sued the state to access the contract, which you did.
Which I did, which I won, and so I actually got access to the contract. There was nothing crazy in that contract, so
just a principle.
I still don't understand why they didn't want to show it to me.
Yes.
And currently this week, again, I was at the administrative tribunal to sue the government again, because for the last 3 years, I'm fighting to get access to the procurement contracts for the COVID vaccines.
Okay.
I believe in the vaccines. Don't get me wrong.
It's not public.
The contracts are hidden.
Even from members of the parliament.
Even from members of parliament. And the government says it's a European contract, so the European Union has negotiated it, so the Luxembourg parliament will not see it. Yeah, despite us having signed it, paying the money, and still buying today, in January 2025, we are still buying vaccines that we immediately destroy.
Yeah,
so the question is, what do we do with our public money? And I want to get to the bottom of that.
And I would say on this, you're back to your DNA, the pirate idea. I would imagine 15 years ago, we would have hoped that somebody would hack into the system and publish it. I'm thinking, of course, WikiLeaks. But as we know, it didn't go very well for WikiLeaks over the past 15 years. And I don't think it's going to happen under this form again. So basically, I think the broader topic here, you explained to us what happened, how you saw it happening. Let's talk about the financing of parties. We understand your party is now 16 years old. It's a very young party. I looked into the finances of parties. It's all public. You can go on lbr.lu. They're all ASBL. It's not looking good. I mean, even powerful parties like CSV or DP don't get a lot of money. You can see cycles of 5 years where they save, and then the election come and they spend everything. Do we need a reform of the financing of parties?
First of all, not all parties are ASBLs, and that's one of the big issues. Parties don't have a legal statute.
Okay.
So there are parties that have organizations that are close to the party that manage the finances. Then you have parties that are organized under the statute of an ASBL, like we are. But in the end, it's very unclear what a party is. So it starts with the definition of what or who is a party.
How old is the law or the rule regulating parties?
The latest amendment is from 2020, and I think this week, so next week, we will vote actually on the next amendment on the law, but we are still not addressing the core issue, which is who and what is a party. And as long as we don't address that issue, it's very difficult to address the issue of transparency.
You're fine-tuning details, but you're missing the big picture.
Because if you're looking back, and for those that don't watch RTL every day, you can easily Google it. It was the Freundeskreis affair that involved the former president of the CSV, and they're actually the ASBL that is linked to the CSV, which owns the buildings that they own, while the party owns nothing. So it's also very strange that
a gray zone.
We have organizations that own the buildings that the parties use, and then the financing obviously needs to run through the party, but who is the party? What is the party? Exactly. All those questions. For the last 6 years in Parliament, I asked us to change the statute of the parties, to have a law that says this is a party, those are the rules governing parties, please, let's do it. And I really hope that this term we can finally agree across party lines.
I guess every party will agree that there's a need to improve. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that parties get a little bit of money from the state, not so much. I was expecting much more. They are not allowed to get money from corporations. Yeah. So they basically need to finance themselves through the members, the cotization, but it's not expensive to become a member of the Piraten Party. It's a few euros.
It's 10 euros per year. So if you want to join, we are looking for new members.
But it's not going to make you very rich very fast. And the other thing I would imagine would be a donation.
Yeah.
So,
but only from physical persons. So
Yes.
again, corporations are banned from giving money to
can they be alive or do they need to be dead? Because it could do, if you get a billionaire who suddenly gives a lot of money. We all have in mind the American system, and we know that in America it's now some PACs, super PACs. It's billions left and right, and I don't think it's a great model either. But here, is there a limit? Can a rich person donate to Piraten a maximum?
Theoretically, you can donate as much as you want.
Okay.
The only person that will know your name will be the Prime Minister and the President of Parliament, who gets the names of the donors above 250 euros per year.
250?
But it's not. Yeah, but it's not published. So again,
it's internal transparency, but I cannot see it.
You cannot see it.
But I guess
you might ask the government to provide those records to you, and probably they need to. But again, we see other countries where there is a bigger transparency on donations to parties.
You need to publish it.
But that's also in countries where donations are tax deductible.
Okay.
Donations to parties are not tax deductible. So if you give us money, you can't reduce your taxes.
Which is surprising in a country like Luxembourg when you think about it. So let's continue on those things. Maybe you know that I'm advocating for much more transparency and accountability. So of course, I imagine on this we could share some opinions. How do you see the Parliament's responsibility in establishing more accountability in our public services at a time where we know finances are getting more complex? The budget 2025 is not looking glorious.
It would start with every member of Parliament taking their role seriously as somebody who checks up on the government, on the governmental action. It's not a political question to analyze the budget. It's not a political question to put a question mark behind certain expenses.
It's a parliamentary question.
I think it's a role of Parliament is to keep governments in check and not follow blindly a government simply because you are in the party that is currently in government or not. And there are other countries where parliaments are much stronger than in Luxembourg. We see the British system is a very good example where individual MPs are much more focused on keeping the government accountable than in Luxembourg. The budget debates in Luxembourg are a farce. We present the budget, we have a nice speech, the finance minister gives a nice speech, and then we debate in total for 8 hours. Parliament debates a 25-6 billion euro budget in 8 hours.
But you have commissions before.
We have committees before, but
that's
about 90 minutes per ministry.
Okay.
So in total, let's say Parliament works on the budget for. Obviously, we work more individually. Some members work much more on the budget, but the public work on the budget is those 8 hours in plenary. In the past, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the budget was debated ministry by ministry.
Okay,
why are we not doing that anymore?
There's room for reform here.
Why are we not amending the budget as Parliament? Why is Parliament silent on being able to amend the budget? Government proposes it, and the governmental majority votes it. Okay. And that's like how it has worked for the last 20 years. I believe if we want to keep government accountable, Parliament needs to be much stronger and needs to fight much harder with real teeth when it comes to the budget.
So let's continue on the work of the Parliament. You know, there was a big news last year. Finally, you're filming your sessions. I mean, but people might be...
A few sessions.
Yeah, better than zero. Sad news. Sven Clement, that geht. Ich verstehe alles, aber if you don't understand Luxembourgish, you're not going to get it because it's not translated in French or English. So, okay, there's some improvement. Happy days. I'm pretty sure soon people will realize there are AI solutions for live translation, which cost not much. But don't you think that there's also room to copy? I'm a big fan of the Parliament of Singapore. I don't know if you watch their sessions. It's masterclass after masterclass. There's the education part. It's accessible. It's translated. So I sent a LinkedIn message to the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Economy. I got answered within 24 hours in Singapore. I did not get answers when I did similar things in Luxembourg. So wouldn't it be your responsibility as an advocate for transparency to push those agendas, because they seem to me as being quite easy to achieve?
It seems easy until you try it. When I got elected in 2018 for my first mandate, now it's the second mandate in Parliament, I was flabbergasted how Parliament still works. We have an internal system that is called courrier électronique.
Okay.
You would think that's like email.
Sounds like
that. It sounds like email. No, it is scanned PDFs that are uploaded into an inbox with some tags.
And of course, there's no character recognition. So
there is character recognition at least, but the search is based on technology that is 20 years old.
Okay.
So it's slow as heck. We are migrating away from that for the last 6 years. Okay. We are still not done with it. We are now buying off-the-shelf software to solve the issue. We are doing a whole revamp of the internal IT systems of the Parliament, which is boring stuff, which costs a lot of money, but in the end, only members of Parliament will see. What you mentioned correctly is filming, streaming the sessions, and also the committee meetings. I believe we should open up as many committees as possible.
I can access a lot of commissions very
They are all
easily.
public, except I think 1 or 2.
Exactly.
I believe that I've been to Singapore recently, so I have good contacts with the Singapore Parliament as well. They have also a very bizarre election system, so I'm not sure we should copy everything.
I didn't say that.
But when it comes to the committee meetings, since we opened them up, I advocate for automatic subtitling,
of course,
at least in Luxembourgish, and also on other channels in many other languages. Technologically, it's doable. The Parliament finances a research project at uni.lu for automatic speech recognition in Luxembourgish, which is still an open research question because it's not perfect, and so we are working on that.
You put a disclaimer. Automatic translation might not be perfect.
Yeah, there are voices in Parliament that say it needs to be perfect, or we can't show it. And I believe let's show what we have, even if it's not perfect.
Yes.
And then maybe there are even some interested parties out there that can make us offers and say, look, with those little tweaks, we can fix it. I believe in open source. I believe in open data. That Parliament is now publishing the votes in an open data format online was, amongst other things, my doing. So for the last years, I really pushed inside of Parliament, whether they wanted or not, for more openness. The lobby register that we have, it's a very bad example. But
I've seen it, yes.
So the lobby register is really bad in its current incarnation.
It's an improvement, but it still needs to be improved.
To get to that, I had to introduce a bill. That bill sat idly there for a year and a half, where nobody wanted to touch it because it came from the pirates and it was more transparency. And what about when I meet somebody in the Grand Rue? Yeah, well, that's not an organized meeting. So don't complicate things. Then suddenly, Guffey came and said, oh, you need to do that. And the European Commission came and said, you need a lobby register. So finally, my bill got taken out of the cupboard somewhere, and they changed it, they gutted it, so that I couldn't even recognize my own bill, and then put it to a vote. We got a lobby register. I believe we should accelerate the work on reforming that, so that Parliament becomes more transparent. But we are far away from that.
You talked about open data. I'm a very strong advocate. Maybe you know that we created with our own money stripes.lu, and we are very proud that we have, I think, one of the best data set about Luxembourg, stripes.lu/dataset, where people can find a lot of resources about our politics, our public servants, everything.
I probably shouldn't say that, but in a past incarnation of my own life, I also scraped the LBR, the RESA, and everything.
And it's public information.
And that they put in those captchas and their challenges had something to do with when I started to scrape maybe a bit more. But I believe that company data sets should also be open. We need to know
LBR.
which companies
exist. I looked at the numbers of your company. I know what profit you did last year, the year before.
I don't think last year. Oh yeah, we published last year.
I know how many employees you have. I'm preparing and the data is available. Yeah. By the way, there's a fantastic website called data.public.lu, which is basically the open data website where there's a lot of resources. The main question is, are people interested to find it? And I'm very proud, for example, that we made public information, all the subsidies that were given from the Ministry of Economy since 2016. And I'm getting fantastic feedback because people want to know. It was public, it's a European document, but I needed to find it and put it on the data set. I'm not hacking it, I'm just giving the links. Yeah. And I believe, I'm very proud when school teachers tell me that they show it to their students. I think this is how we can make things progress. Personally, I'm surprised that we did it when I would have believed the Piraten should have done it a long time ago.
We did something similar. Today you have the budget.public.lu website, which has like nice drill downs of the budget.
Only in Luxembourgish this year.
Take that up with the new government.
It used to be in English before in French.
It used to be in 4 languages.
Not anymore.
When we started the party in 2009, the budget was published as a PDF. That's it. So what did we do? We wrote a scraper. We OCR'd the heck out of those tables because tables in PDFs to data, it's a tricky
Most
thing.
of the time, yes.
So we developed a transformer in 2011, I think it was, where we published the budget as openbudget.lu. And we actually, it was so well received that it crashed the servers immediately.
I'm just curious. I mean, this was.
I remember sitting at the kitchen table with the laptop and like spinning up new instances on AWS to like make that website stay alive because we got like bombarded by requests. And a few years later, the government then finally started publishing the budget in a proper digital format. So we see that sometimes you need to push the government for more transparency, for more openness. And if the civil society does it, the government sometimes, not always, follows suit. The same for Parliament. A few years back, Parliament didn't really publish the vote results and the presences of members of Parliament in Parliament. So we, Jerry Vaya and I, my business partner, we launched DepuWatch.lu, which essentially, again, scraped that data and published it in a more digestible format. So yeah, I did a lot of that in my past incarnations. Obviously, when you're in Parliament, you have to like also focus on the day-to-day work of Parliament. So sometimes it's the time that is missing, not the ideas.
You lost a little bit your DNA because I remember when you launched the party at the time of the Pirate Bay, this is what you stood for, this forced transparency. And it's surprising that you tell me you were doing that and then you stopped doing it, because I believe this is really what Luxembourg needs right now.
But also because, to a certain extent, the public institutions then took over those projects and continued them much better than we could because they were sitting on the primary data.
In the budget website is really well done. I'm just surprised that this year it's only one language, because again, there's a lot of English-speaking Luxembourgers and non-Luxembourgers who would like to know, and yeah, it's a bit intimidating when you arrive. One last question. People knew we were going to meet. You went on LinkedIn asking for people to send me messages so that I could get more questions. Well, I got one question a lot. A lot of people tell me Sven is going to go to another party like the others and is going to continue his career maybe at CSV or LSAP. So I'll ask you directly, where will you be in 6 months or 1 year?
That question comes up every 3 months, every 6 months. Before the elections, everybody told me, oh, you will be gone to another party before the elections. The elections came, I was still with the Pirates. For the last 6 months, everybody asked me the same question, and look at me, I'm still a pirate. It's very difficult to let go of your baby when you co-founded the party, I guess. At the same time, you don't know what the future will bring. I believe that we need progressive politics that address the needs of people. I don't believe in ideology. I believe that ideology is, or pure ideology is bad for the country as a whole. We are a country of stability. So I believe that whatever I will do, if the party would cease to exist at some point in the far-fetched future, I would evaluate that very carefully, but I don't have any plans and I don't see the party ceasing to exist in the very near future.
And it takes us to the beginning, and when we look at your website, fair tax reform, security, childcare, environment, a lot of parties are addressing those topics. The lines have been blurred between each party. 25 years ago, it was either you were from Esch and you were a socialist, LSAP very clearly, or you were from the city, you were a liberal. Now the lines are blurred.
But the current coalition makes it again clearer where certain parties stand, and I believe that that also reopens opportunities that were much less visible over the last years, because obviously a three-party coalition between Liberals, Social Democrats and Greens blurs the whole center-left picture. Now with the DP clearly moving to the more center-right than center, the CSV rediscovering their right-wing roots and their social wing almost disappearing if it is not for Mark Spautz, who is defending it with the last energy that he can muster. I believe that the lines become clearer again, and that also means that parties can have a much clearer profile than it was in a three-party coalition time.
Perfect. I would like to thank you for taking the time and accepting to come unscripted and answering our question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.